All right, welcome back to TML Weekly. This is episode 16, presented by Bjorn and Don Cherry Sports Bar and Grill. Uh, Before we head into this episode, let's see how the boys are doing. Johnny Mac, how's it going?
Good, man. Good. Just out of my normal little studio area. My in-laws are coming in from Saskatchewan over the next day or so, and so I have to give up that space. But we're happy to have them. And shout out to the boys team, Jack's team. Lost a heartbreaker in Antigonish on the weekend, double overtime. It's you got to learn how to lose those games as part of your development process. So they're right back at it in Charlottetown this weekend. So I'm looking forward to getting over to PEI and seeing some real good hockey clubs over there.
All right, John.
Hey, boys, how's it going? We had a good weekend, too. We were out in Belleville for Cara Grace, their gymnastics event. She had a very successful run out in there. A little suspect on the judging. You know what? These judged sports, man, I don't know sometimes. You see stuff happen and you're like, that girl looks like she missed it completely and she got a 9-4. That girl looks like she nailed it and she gets an 8-9. I don't know how it all works, but Cara was successful, and so that's what we were concerned with. So that was a good weekend. It's going to be a tough week here with no hockey for a while. So I thought maybe we can touch on a few things going on in the hockey world. And what did you have in mind, Nolan? Where do you want to go first?
So not a very busy week coming up. We got the All-Star break, obviously. So that's in Toronto. Should be an action-packed weekend. Excited to watch the draft, especially coming back. But yeah, I think we should just head right into the hot topic right now, the Hockey Canada scandal. If you guys want to take it away.
You go first, John. I'll say my piece after that.
Well, for those of you who either don't know or haven't been following it very closely, four significant NHLers, one former NHLer who's now playing in Europe, charged this week or last week, really, but they were given till this week to surrender to police in London. Listen, terrible look for everyone involved. I'm not going to come on here and bash players. I'm not going to bash anybody. I'm going to sit there and say those guys deserve their day in court, and they're going to get it. But what I will say is it's a really, really sad day for hockey. It is not a good look. I said to the boys earlier, I was watching CNN and Wolf Blitzer's on talking about this, and like that is not the look that you want as a league that's trying to market themselves. I think that it was a long time coming. This is a 5-year process that is finally playing itself out. And listen, if you're a young guy, if you're a young man, and you're out and having a good time, no means no, and that's just the way it is. And you got to learn those things. And there's no excuse. There's no reason. And not a good look. Not a good look for the league. Not a good look for hockey. It's not good. There's nothing positive that is coming out of this situation at all. I will say the kid who was with Ottawa, who was over in Europe, Johnny, we were talking about this earlier, and it appears that Ottawa, walked away from him on contract renewal time. And I think kudos to Ottawa for doing the right thing there. And not exposing themselves in the franchise. One thing that, I won't get too hot into this, but I think it's a point, especially for Leafs Nation. Brad Treliving re-signed one of these gentlemen to a second contract, knowing full well what was coming down the pipe. And I think as this story develops, it's not something that's going to be a front burner issue right now. But I think as this story develops, this is something to keep an eye on. I think Brad Treliving is going to have to answer a question or two on what he knew, when he knew it, and then why he elected to make the decisions that he made. And my sincere hope there is he's got really good answers, because if he doesn't, I don't know. But that's something to keep an eye on in this space for Maple Leafs fans out there. I think that may come down the pipe soon. Johnny, I don't really have too much more to say about it other than that it's disappointing, and it's a tough day for hockey. But I do want to, before I hand it over to you, let's also remember that. And this is a hockey show, and that's why I say it's a tough day for hockey. But I don't absolutely want to minimize the impact to this girl and her life and her family and what she's had to deal with. So, I think I want to make that extremely clear too. It's a hockey show, and that's why I'm saying it's a bad day for hockey. But it's a significantly worse day for that girl and what she had to deal with and what she's going to have to ultimately live with. And I think more of our concern should be with that young girl and her family. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, well said. And for sure, you gotta look at the impact on the victim and the families. And in this case, with five defendants, if you will, she may have to go and tell her story 5 times.
Tough.
Which I think a lot of the time that has passed 5+ years since the alleged incident took place. I think there's a lot of people that were hoping that she would be like, I'm not testifying. And I think as this young lady kind of grew up and got a little older, she also got braver, and I think she'll tell her story. And I just hope justice is served, and I don't want to presume anybody's guilt, of course, until it goes through the process. But you're bang on. It's a bad look for the sport. It's a bad look for Hockey Canada. I'm not going to say it's a bad look for the NHL, but we'll see here in the coming weeks how they handle it. So all they've done right now. So the NHL teams, the kids are basically on a leave of absence. They're being paid, and they're not. They count against the salary cap, but they don't count against the roster limit. That was before any charges were filed, which kind of came through today. So the first charges of all, I don't know, I haven't seen them, but there's 5 of them that are being charged. One of them has turned himself in, the Formanton, and then the other 4 have to turn themselves in by Monday. And a couple of the agents of our lawyers have already come out and said, my client's not killed. Of course, they're going to say that, and let's hope they aren't. But I think the way the NHL handles it moving forward will be reflective on their. Let's face it; these were kids that weren't in the NHL yet when the alleged incident took place. Okay, what you said about Treliving, he may have to answer. We don't know. We assume that the teams that had players involved knew, but at the end of the day, there was 20 kids on that team, and all 20 of those teams, 20 of those players and their respective teams could have had meetings that came out. So the Ottawa player that didn't get re-upped, maybe they knew something that the other guys didn't. Let's hope, because I think it would be pretty irresponsible knowing that this is in the pipeline to sign somebody to your organization, not only for the look that it gives you, but making sure the young girls in the town that you're operating your franchise are safe as well. So it's going to be a defining moment for the National Hockey League. Obviously, they're not going to be banning players until convictions come, but I think when the charges are laid, I think at that point there's grounds for termination of contract, suspension from the league without pay. There's going to be a lot of things on the table that the NHL has been watching this closely. They already know what they're going to do and when they're going to do it. But I think it's going to be a defining moment for, Gary Bettman and his regime as to how he handles this. And they have to be careful too, right? Because you have to be, presume innocence until proven guilty, right?
Can you think, and I'm just thinking out loud now, I can't think of the last time, and let's not even talk hockey. Let's just talk major professional North American sports, baseball, football. I mean, maybe Ray Rice, but I don't even know if Ray Rice was under contract when that happened.
Yeah, he was, but this is unprecedented.
That's what I mean. Like, I'm trying to think back to the last time a criminal charge went against like a legit playing player. Like, and I'm not minimizing Trevor Bauer had his case with the domestic assault and stuff, but I'm trying.
Well, you got 5 too. You got 5, and then it's alleged that it could be up to 8. Yeah, I think they have proof on 5. I don't think they have proof on the other 3.
So, I'm trying to think. Like, I don't think that there is a significant precedent for something like this.
Yeah,
I think this is kind of and mercifully, this is not something that we're dealing with all the time.
We just got a question. From a viewer. If found guilty civilly but not criminally, would any of you as a GM keep any of the 5?
No, no chance. No chance at all. And
I just think we're in such an age, and I'm not gonna condone any of this type of behavior, but and it's not just hockey. When you get groups of young men in a kind of a prestigious position on a team, whether it's baseball, football, there's been horror stories that have been going on as long as I've been alive, and have heard them, across multiple sports and teams and things like that. You can even go into that, celebrities and actors, and there was a Canadian musician that had had a huge following of young girls, and he's either in jail right now or he's about to go to a guy from Headley, right?
Yes, right.
So this has been going on for a long time, folks. Okay, doesn't make it right, obviously, but we're at the age now where everybody gets information immediately, right? So something happens in a bar in London, Ontario right now, there's going to be a video of it or a tweet about it or something. It's just, we're not in a place, and an organization can sweep things under the rug in the 70s and 80s and move forward, and very few people will know about it. Now everybody knows about it instantly. So the way that these organizations handle this is going to be it's going to be big, and it's got to be a lesson. They got to start, and they do. You know what? The culture is changing. This was the reason why the board resigned and the top dogs at Hockey Canada resigned, was because it was alleged this isn't the only time that Hockey Canada has dealt with this. We just don't know about the others. There is an investigation going on right now in Halifax. And I was at that event. 2003 World Juniors were out here, and that was the Marc-Andre Fleury, Jordan Tutu, Danny Paille. That was that group. I was at the I think the semis and the final, and they lost to Ovechkin, I think, as a 16-year-old. That was Fleury's first one. Anyway, so there's a very similar instance in Halifax that is still under investigation, and the Halifax police put out a message the day that this broke, I think last Wednesday. They put on a message that basically said, we are still actively pursuing charges from the 2003 World Juniors. There is no statute of limitations that's going to stop us from pursuing, and if you look down at that roster, I think Fleury's the only one playing still. But there's some big names. There's again, and these guys are now 39 years old, presumably with families and careers after hockey, most of them. So just do better, people, right? Do better and raise your kids a little better, and it's tough. It's a very, very tough situation for me because I have a son that plays. I've got daughters. It's very uncomfortable to talk about. I feel for these young men. Do I want them punished if it's proven that they did it 100%? But it's a tough one. That's all we can really say is we'll keep you up to date each week. None of us, would ever make a comment that we think that they're innocent or they're guilty. We don't know. We weren't there. That's for the justice system to decide. But it makes me sick to my stomach, the whole thing. It makes me really uncomfortable. But I think the message needs to get out there to the young players, and raise your kids right, raise your sons right, and
Johnny, I think it's important to note too that on the whole, National Hockey League players are out of the major North American sports. Hockey players are known to be the most accommodating, most down to earth out of all of them. So I don't think it's indicative of the league. But the other thing that I think is very important to say, and maybe it is a little uncomfortable, but maybe it should be, is that there's a significant portion of the fan base of the National Hockey League that are female. And we're starting a female pro league. And stuff like listen, I'm a father of girls. You're a father of girls. Like, you know what I mean? Stuff like this. You were a young man once. I was a young man once. Lots of us did stupid things. But you know what? There was a line, and you knew where the line was. And, if these guys have crossed that line, they're going to pay the price, and they should. I just think for a certain time where we are today in the world, especially in the world of sports, this dog does not hunt anymore. The days of 1976 and we're at the bar and just have those days are gone. And it's accountability, and it's do the right thing. And like you said, Johnny, you were raised, all of those kids, they're raised better than that. Do the right thing, be a gentleman, behave yourselves. And that's all I got to say about that. We could, I think, I don't think we need to beat a dead horse.
But to wrap it up, and this is something I think that can prevent a lot of this stuff from happening, is raise your kid to have a voice, and raise your kid that when he sees potential or behavior that's going to happen there, to say no.
Step
right?
up, 100%.
I don't care if you're a rookie and the guy's a veteran and something's about to go down that isn't right, morally or ethically or whatever it is. Step up.
Step up, 100%. Be a leader.
You can make a difference, right?
Be a leader.
And, exactly. So that's it. Let's move on, Noam. What about you? Any thoughts on the whole thing?
Yeah, it's obviously still in progress, but I agree with everything you said. And
you're their age, right? How old are you?
I was going to say that, Nolan. You're prime time right now.
What are you, you're a 99, aren't you?
No, 02. I'm turning 22.
Okay, it was Maddie. I thought you were closer to Robin's age. Sorry.
No.
02. But even still, right? You're a couple of years away, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we should move on now to our midseason report cards, as you go with. Start with the forwards. How do you guys rate the forwards on like an A+, B scale? What do you guys give the whole forward?
Okay, so I thought, for when we were looking at doing this, I was trying to come up with what is the best way to really look at these guys? And I think it's not necessarily on, goals and assists and plus minus, and you're playing on the second line, you're playing on the third line. I think when I'm looking at the players and trying to assess how successful or not successful they've been, it's really based on what I think my expectation was for them and for the role that they were brought into play. I also think when I was looking at this, and listen, I take a lot of heat for this, and I have no problem taking it. I'll own it 100%. It's not 1989, and what your contract is and what you take up on the cap is a significant part of what your impact on this team can be. Because if you're making $11 million, but you're not playing like an $11 million player, regardless of how good you are, regardless of how great you are in the dressing room and other things, and you're in the community and doing that's all wonderful and good, you're a detriment to the team based on your contract. And that has to be a part when we're assessing, simply because the team is built in a salary cap and you can't insulate the player versus the contract, in my mind, at least. So that's when I'm looking at this team, and I'm making my judgments and my assessments. Those are the credentials that I'm using.
Okay.
Johnny, are you at a point there? Are you assessing differently? Just, I think it's important.
I'm kind of, I kind of looked at it. If you look at the forwards, the D and the goalies, I looked at which I look at it. Okay, which guys are doing their job? We're not going to talk about them. They come every night or most nights, and they get the job done. Who's exceeding? Who's given us more? At this point than we would expect. And I've got a list of 6.
You got 6?
Yeah.
On the forwards?
They're exceeding the value I would have given them going into this season.
On the forwards, you got 6?
Yeah, I got Morgan Riley. I think he's been fantastic.
Okay, that's a defenseman, though.
I'm talking about 6.
Total. Okay, I'm with. Okay, sorry, I thought you meant forwards.
So I got 3 of them on the back end, guys. I think with all the injuries, I got Riley, McCabe, and Benoit that have played better than I would have expected any of them to play over the sample size of a half a year. Okay, and then on the front end, honestly, I've got Matthews and Nylander, and Nylander's tapered off, but his numbers are still there, and he's a threat every night. I would be close. The next one would be Gregor. I think for what he's done and brought to the table for the money that he gets, I think he's. And then I only have 2 that aren't meeting expectations. So the rest of the guys, in my opinion, up front and on the back end are okay. And you may be surprised, but we got Brody, and we know Brody's had some personal issues. He's had some troubles, but he keeps battling through it. And every now and then he'll just make that play that he did 2, 3, 4 years ago, and before that in Calgary, where his stick's so good and he's in the right spot. So he's shown signs that he's not done. And the other one's Bertuzzi. I thought there'd be way more out of him. And I'm not just talking about numbers, because I look at the game a little deeper than that. Other than that, I'm fine. I mean, people would say, "Oh, well, John," I'm reading a lot about, they gotta, get him to waive his no. He's not going anywhere. Like, let's face it.
We're stuck with Tavares. We're
not
stuck.
going anywhere. And you know what? He wins 65% of his draws. He does the intangibles. He's a pro. He's a leader. I have no problem with the money he's getting. He's still producing, right? He's fine. It is what it is. That's not going anywhere. So the pipe dream of Brad Treliving going over to John Tavares' his house and talking him into taking a trade to Buffalo, which would be the only place he'd go if he was ever going to go anywhere, because his uncle's kind of a legend there in the lacrosse world
and whatnot. Yeah,
he's home. He's an hour up the QE, but he's not going anywhere. That's not happening. So I think he's fine. I think Marner's been fine. Marner shows, I mean, I know you don't like Domi. You probably have Domi down there, But that's kind of it.
I'm having a seizure over here
I
listening
have
to
no
you.
issue with the goaltending. I mean,
Hey,
I
John,
really don't. Like, these guys have had to battle and come in. The record's good. You're in a good spot right now. You're in a good spot.
John, I just want to, before you jump in here, it seems like you look pretty stunned. Don't really look like you agree too much. I'm just gonna quickly rapid fire names, and you quickly say exceeded expectations, passed, or failed, or disappointed, whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Bertuzzi,
Epic fail.
Domi,
Epic fail.
Gregor,
Par for the course. Maybe a little bit better than what. Yeah.
okay, Holmberg,
Fine.
Yarncroke,
Actually, I'm okay with Kalle Yarncroc.
Camp,
I'm disappointed.
Nyes,
Frustrated.
Marner,
Disappointed.
Matthews,
Exceeds.
McMahon,
Irrelevant.
Nylander,
Confused.
Reeves,
Maybe the most disappointed.
Robertson,
Be nice if the coach let him play.
and Tavares.
An enigma wrapped in a cornucopia of confusion.
You want to go to the defenseman or just end with the forwards?
Yeah. Well, so here's what I want to say here. I listen. I want to be John right now. I want to be John, and I want to be positive. I don't think that if I'm looking at what I see honestly, Tyler Bertuzzi should be charged with theft for what he is doing to this team. This is criminal that he is performing the way he is, with the ice time that he's getting, the opportunity that he gets, the players that he's playing with. It's inexcusable. And listen, he's not effective.
He's a playoff type guy.
Listen,
I
John,
don't think they brought.
if I hear somebody tell me
point a game guy in the regular season.
If I hear somebody tell me that, oh, John, listen, he was great for 7 games against Boston or for Boston last year in the playoffs. If I hear it one more time,
I said that. I said he's a playoff type of guy. That's the type of way he plays. The dirtier and more physical and more shit he can get away with, he's gonna succeed. And then regular season, that's not the way the game's played, unfortunately. Yeah. But there's guys like him that are gonna prove their worth. And you got to give him. He hasn't. Hey,
listen. At this point, that's all we got to hold on to.
Yeah, I think he's the type of guy that when the game tightens up and there's a little bit more physicality and maybe some after extracurricular stuff, that's where he shines. He's
hey, listen,
bit of a sideshow.
I hope you're right. Max Domi, 4 goals, fine, I guess. He's a defensive liability every time he's on the ice. I don't like the body language off of him. David Kampf has taken a massive step back. Kalle Yarncroc is doing his job. Kalle Yarncroc is who, to quote Herm Edwards, he is who we thought he was. That's what Kalle Yarncroc is. Matthew Nyes, I think, is running into the I'm exhausted. And, my first full season in the league and taking a beating every night and, making rookie plays. And I think he's tired. I also think coaching plays a major impact on that. And I don't think he's getting it. I look at Ryan Reeves, man. There was nobody that was more excited about Ryan Reeves coming to the Maple Leafs than I was. And I promise you, there's nobody more disappointed than watching Ryan Reeves play than me. Great that he got a goal the other night, and he's looked okay the last couple times he's been in. But he's a liability when he's on the ice for us. William Nylander. Listen, William Nylander started the season like a house on fire. That Sweden series, I've never seen him play better in his life. That guy was all world and was arguably the best player in the NHL. I don't know where that player's been for the last 3.5 weeks, but he's disappeared. Coincidentally, he just got paid. I don't know if that's relevant, irrelevant, whatever. I just think it's a very interesting thing. Mitch Marner, God, Mitch, I don't know what to say. There are nights when Mitch Marner is a magician on the ice and you think, holy cow, this guy's the best player in the league. And then there's nights when Mitch Marner shows up and you're like, I've not heard his name once. I don't know where he is. Maybe he's playing, maybe he's not. And at $11 million, I'm sorry, I don't see David Pasternak doing that. I don't see Kucherov doing that. I don't see Cale Makar doing that. I don't see Nathan McKinnon doing that. John Tavares, listen, I like, and I take so much heat for this. I like John, and I want to be very clear. I love John Tavares as a hockey player. I do. I very much do. I think he's great. And John, just like you said, he does the intangibles. He wins face-offs. He's a good community guy. He's great in the room. But I'm sorry, man. You've been in the league for 16 years, and you've got 2 playoff wins, and you've been captain for 14 of those teams. And I see you after every game, and your answers are the same. It's robotic. It's we're going to learn from this. We're going to be better. It's not good enough. Cannot go. Sorry, at $11 million, you can't take 9 games off. Can't. It's inexcusable, and it hurts the team. That's my take on Tavares. Austin Matthews, listen, be very clear. If we did not have Austin Matthews playing the way Austin Matthews is, if Austin Matthews was playing like Mitch Marner right now, we're not a playoff team. We're not even close to a playoff team. That's the fact. So that's my take on the forwards. A lot of disappointment, a lot of confusion. Thank God we've got Austin Matthews, and that's where I'm at. I wish I was like John. I wish I was John Captain Positive on it. I'm really not right now. I'm frustrated and confused with our forwards.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not Captain Positive here. I'm just looking at it and saying it is what it is. You go and you sweep the best team in the NHL home and home. They can play great and they can be. They've got a couple months left. If he's got to tinker with the roster, we're going to get into some trade options and what we're hearing here shortly on that side. But yeah, when they play like they can play, it's going to be tough for any team in this league to beat them in a 7-game series. Any team. I put Colorado and Vegas and Boston and whoever in there. If they play the right way, they have the horses, they have the personnel. Couple tweaks. If they can get just, it's all about peaking at the right time. We talked last week about St. Louis and Berube. This very time fair. they weren't in a playoff spot, and then they went on a heater, and it just kept going.
Yeah, right? Very fair.
And
all right, let's look at defense.
Yeah.
So, Johnny, give me your take on the defense.
Well, I got Riley, McCabe, and Benoit exceeding what I thought they were. Liljegren, I'm fine with. I know he's been getting a hard time from the coach, but he does what he's got to do. Lagesson, when he came in, I thought was okay. He didn't hurt. Brody, we talked about Brody. Giordano's lost a step. I think he's a little bit injury riddled right now, but he's 40. And when you play, he had to play a lot in the fall with all the injuries that they had, and I think that that would have made him a little bit susceptible to some nagging injuries that he's obviously dealing with some stuff right now, and hopefully they keep him out and they can afford to keep him out and give him those rests and They scratched him the other night, but it was more to get another guy in than it was to, and I think they got to start thinking about that and have him, ready for the first round and rested and not banged up. So I would, he's still valuable player. Who'd I miss?
Benoit.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's done. I think he plays the game similar to Justin Hall. Right, he's not flashy. Right, he's a bigger guy. He'll lay the body. He doesn't mind mixing it up, which I've liked. Is he the fleetest on foot? No, but at the end of the day, he's out there competing and he's playing more minutes than anybody would have given him credit to be playing in the NHL this year. And I think he's been a positive.
Okay.
Anybody else who I know I'm missing somebody?
You talk about Liljegren?
I'm fine with him. Yeah.
I guess the only other player you didn't touch on was our boy Connor Timmins.
Yeah, you know what? He is what he is too. I mean, I think he's more of an offensive, he's not as offensive as Klingberg would have given us, but he's not defensively as bad either. So he's kind of in that he's got some offensive upside for sure. And he's got some defensive liabilities, which you're going to get a lot of times when you get that kind of a player. But I don't think they're hurting us. I like him. I'm not saying he's exceeding, but he is what we thought he was, or what I thought he was.
All right, John, do you want to do rapid fire again?
Hit me.
All right, Benoit.
Better than I thought. Not, but like a 6'7" defenseman on a legit team. But better than I thought. But is what he is, for lack of a better term.
Brody.
TJ Brody should not be playing.
Gio.
I blame the coach for ruining Giordano last year and playing him 81 games at 17 or 18 minutes a night, having him disappear in the playoffs and then pretend like he was surprised and didn't know. And then doing the same to start this year. I think if Mark Giordano was utilized as the sixth defenseman, which is what he should be, playing 12 minutes a night, Mark Giordano on a good team as a sixth defenseman is exactly who you want him to be. Miscast. Klingberg, possibly the worst free agent signing in the history of the NHL.
I had him in my family pool. I'm out of my family pool because he's one of my defensemen.
Just
5 points, and I could have taken.
John, what's worse, Klingberg signing or Jack Campbell?
Jack Campbell's worse only because of the term. only because of the term. If it was a 1-year deal for Jack Campbell at $5 million or a 1-year deal for John Klingberg at 4.1, John Klingberg is the worst deal.
All right, Legason.
I don't understand why the coach stopped playing him. He was not a liability when he was on the ice. But again, welcome to the fifth, sixth defenseman that we have on our team.
Liljegren.
Okay, so again, I take a lot of heat for this. I'm a huge Timothy Liljegren fan. I like what he brings to the table. I wish we had a coach that would develop players instead of, kick them in their nuts when they're down. But I think Liljegren is doing as well as can be with the coaching he's receiving.
McCabe.
Anybody who's watched us for a long period of time knows I'm a Jake McCabe fan. I think Jake McCabe started really rough, had a really rough start to the season, and is rounding into form. But if I was going to critique him on the whole year to this date, I'm going to say underperformed my expectation of where he should be. But rounding into form.
Riley.
I got no complaints on Morgan Riley. Morgan Riley is, listen, he's our number one.
Rock.
I don't know if he's a number one defenseman on a legit number. Like you're terrified of playing them in the playoffs, Stanley Cup team.
Timmins.
Connor Timmins. The coach hates him. Won't play him. Has never given him a fair shake since he's come here. And I think when he gets on the ice, he plays scared because of that. I think he needs a fresh start. I think Connor Timmins is going to be a good NHL defenseman. Like John said, he's significantly more offensive minded than he is, defensive. But on this team, he gets exposed a lot because of the way we play. I like Timmins, but I think that the coach has sucked any kind of confidence out of that player. That's my take on Timmins.
All right. Do you guys want to head to goaltending quickly before we talk about the trade rumors?
Yeah. Go ahead. Hit me.
I mean, goaltending, I say it all the time. Doesn't matter who's in your net if he's a capable NHL goaltender. All three of them, if we talk about Woll and Samsonov and Jones, have all been absolutely brilliant, and they've all been absolutely awful. Right? There's been times where we're like, oh, we want to see Woll get the net for a while, and then he gets lit up for 6. Right? And then Samsonov comes back, and we think he's the guy, and then they get hurt, and there was a lot going on, but obviously goaltending hasn't been up to championship standards, but the record's okay. Okay, you hopefully you can get all three of these guys in a position towards the end of the season that you have 3 options and they're all somewhat healthy. I think they're fine.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
Goaltending, you look at the team record. Forget about goals against. Forget about save percentage. Doesn't matter. Look at the team record. So that conglomerate of goalies playing subpar. I just said that. Yeah, I agree with you on that. But you've got a record that's 13 games over 500, securely in a playoff spot.
Securely?
Yes.
Hold on.
Yes.
Securely in a playoff
3 games that, yes, this team's not going to not make the playoffs. Let's not get crazy here.
I think there's a fundamental difference between securely in the playoffs and where we are right now.
You're not even good. You're in the wild card spot right now, but you got 3 games at hand on Tampa.
Detroit and the Islanders and everybody else are like 1 game behind you.
Yeah, they're fine. Okay. I think the record's fine.
Okay.
For having subpar goaltending.
Okay, so
and a banged up defense for half the year.
So listen, my viewpoint on Ilya Samsonov is the same as it was 3 weeks ago. I think it's wonderful. Ilya Samsonov just played 3 great games in a row. Absolutely fantastic. Wonderful. Ilya Samsonov makes 3.5 on the cap. He's been put on waivers this year. That's not going to do it. The bottom line is the MVP of our season is Martin Jones. The only reason that we're even, as John says, comfortably in a playoff spot is because Martin Jones showed up as the 3rd string goaltender who's cleared waivers already once this season. I like Joseph Woll. Everybody knows I like Joseph Woll. The concern on Joseph Woll for me is not whether he can be a goaltender in the NHL. He clearly can. It's whether or not he can be a dependable goaltender in the NHL. And throughout his time in the minors and then his time in the show, he hasn't shown that. And that's concerning. So listen, while I'm going to give Martin Jones the team MVP for the season, the goaltending has not been anywhere near appropriate for a legit team to be a Stanley Cup contender. Now
you got 30 seconds to speak on the coach and GM, because I know if I don't say 30 seconds, you'll be 30 minutes. So 30 seconds on both Treliving and Keefe.
With Sheldon Keefe, all I want to say is this: look at Montgomery in Boston with a coaching change. Look at Knobloch in Edmonton with a coaching change.
Bruce Cassidy in Vegas.
Cassidy, same thing. Yeah. And, for a team that supposedly wants to be that winning franchise. I don't understand the commitment to mediocrity. I'll never understand it. I do it every week. I talk about his deficiencies as a coach. I talk about the mistakes that get made, and it's all irrelevant because Brandon Shanahan has compromising pitchers that Sheldon Keefe clearly has of him, and nothing will ever change. We're going to be here. I'm going to be 65 years old. We're going to be doing TML Weekly episode 4006, and Sheldon Keefe will somehow still be the coach. I'll never understand it. He's an AHL coach.
I don't think I unless they are on an absolute heater playing 750, 800 hockey between now and the playoffs, I don't think he's the coach when the playoffs start.
But John, how long have we been saying that though?
I haven't been saying it that long. You're the one that's been saying it for a year.
Hold on. Did you
I've
not
said
agree
for about the last month that something's a brewing here?
Hold on though. Did you not agree with me at the end of last season that he had to go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I'm just saying,
it was an
I've been on it since the Montreal series. Since the Montreal series, I've told you he's not the guy. I've given countless examples. Even you came on board at the end of last year. We've gone through a terrible first half where we're nowhere near where any of us want to be. No one is happy with where we are right now. But you know who's happy? Clearly, Brandon Shanahan is. Clearly, Brad Treliving is. Because this muffin's still here.
Yeah, I think I think he benefited in the crossfire of the Dubas fall.
Clearly.
Because he was gonna follow, right? As soon as Dubas left, everybody's like, oh, that's where Keefe's gonna go 100%. And then that's when they came in and said, okay. And it was more of a like, I'm gonna draw a line in the sand and offer this coach whatever. At the end of the day, unless they're on an absolute heater for the rest, they go on a 3 or 4 game slide again. There's conversations happening.
I don't believe it, John. I'm just being honest.
As for living, I'm a little underwhelmed on one side, and I'm kind of happy on the other side. So underwhelming. Just he's always had the reputation of being a little bit of a cowboy, and he's in on lots, and he's there, and so I would have expected something by now, something to maybe shake it up.
Are we talking about
he's got a lot of no trade clauses on his roster. So to bring somebody in a cap world, it's a lot easier to do when you don't have those no movements. But you know what? He hasn't overpaid for. We'll talk about Zadorov here. I'll start with that on the trade stuff. But finish your thought on Keefe and.
Okay, so like I said, I'm not going to change. Listen, my thoughts on Keefe are my thoughts on Keefe. Here's my thoughts on Treliving. Epic fail on Bertuzzi. Now, but I want to be very clear. I like the Bertuzzi signing when it happened. So I'm not going to hammer him on the signing itself. I like the Bertuzzi signing. It's been an epic fail. The Domi signing, I thought was nostalgic when it happened. And I think it's proven to be underwhelming at best. The Klingberg signing, I said, was going to be an albatross the second it was signed. It's proven to be correct. And the fourth one, Reeves, I loved, and boy, was I wrong. I look at the re-signing of the coach to an extension. I look at the lack of initiative. And what I hate most about everything that's kind of gone on with Treliving since he's been here is he's been a bit of an enigma. He's kind of there, and we're all kind of waiting. We're like, who are you? What are you doing? What is your thought pattern? What are you seeing? Talk to us. Tell us things. And we don't really hear anything. He's like of that, Brandon Shanahan school where Brandon Shanahan shows up once a year and goes, we're going to run it back. And we go, okay, thanks, Brandon. Thanks for coming out. We'll see you again next year. I don't know what Treliving is about. I don't know what his thought pattern is. I hear all the time, oh, we're in on this, we're in on that, and it feels very Toronto Blue Jays to me. We're in on everybody, but we sign no one. You know what I mean? And I think as a fan base, we're a knowledgeable fan base, and that crap does not fly. And Treliving is going to find out real quick. This isn't Calgary. right? This is you're in the big time, and we want to know, and we want to see results. And what we've seen from you so far, to me, Brad Treliving gets a failing grade.
What about you, Nolan?
Yeah, obviously some of the signings I was excited for, like Bertuzzi, Domi. Klingberg's been bad signing, obviously. Reeves, say what you will about him, but Benoit and Jones have both been very good, albeit they're like pretty minor signings. But yeah, I kind of want to give him a full year to see how it all shakes out in the playoffs and what he does at the deadline, if anything.
Yeah, he couldn't even work the draft, right? Like
Yeah.
he wasn't even allowed at the table.
But be clear, though, that's a Brendan Shanahan problem.
Why?
Brendan Shanahan left it so late in the game.
No,
No,
because they thought they had their guy. They thought like Duba screwed them at the last minute, looking for more power or more money or whatever it was. He was coming back.
But where was the problem? Was the problem between Dubas and Shanahan, or was it?
Sit here and speculate all day where the problem was. You know, then you got 3 layers of ownership and 2 different media companies that are back and forth and might like a guy and not like, you know. It's hard to say, but Noel made a really good point. Let's give the guy, you know, let him get through free agency next year when he's actually had conversations going. I think he is in on everything. If you listen to Elliot Friedman, he reported earlier in the week that he goes, you know, Toronto's is absolutely in on every defenseman in the NHL. They're watching every guy, and if they think they can make a deal, they're going to make a deal. They're looking for defense actively. You know, it's a weird market right now. There's a lot of teams that you don't know what they are. There's more teams that may be in the playoffs right now than I think in a lot of years. Right? If you look at who's out, how many teams are out? 4 or 5?
5 maybe.
Right?
Like,
normally there's 10 out by now.
Yeah.
Normally there's 10 that don't have a sniff. And
So,
you know they're sellers.
Listen, I thought about this really hard this week, and I'll be honest, and I want to ask, and believe me, I'm being 100% sincere when I ask this question. Okay, we all watched when they played Nashville this year, and we all commented, "Holy cow, that might have been the best game we've played in 5 seasons when we played Nashville." Then we watched on the road trip, the last West Coast road trip they went out. They were playing the Kings at home, and the Kings were hot as you know what at that point in time. Number 1 power play in the league in the last 2 weeks, and they were looking great. And we went in and we defensively played so well. And then I look at the way we played these last 2 games against Winnipeg. Total commitment to team defense. And I mean this sincerely, I hear us talk about we need defensemen, and we're not good enough at the blue line, and we struggle. But those, and I'm just talking about 4 games in the last month and a half. Those 4 games tell me we are completely capable of playing that style of hockey and winning with it, with the team that we have when we want to play that way.
Yeah, and you're right, but you also said earlier when you're grading the players that we have 4 or 6 defensemen, 4 or 5, 6 defensemen, and we got you know what I mean. So the idea here is, and that's why they have the deadline. It's not always to get that player, that X factor player. It's to get depth. It's to get options. It's
we're not getting a Ryan O'Reilly
players that you can kind of maybe push another guy with, and then you got the ability to keep Giordano out of the lineup, you know, on a back-to-back and that kind of thing, and not give up, you know, what you had. So I think I mean I don't know whether they're looking at number 1 Ds or number 6 Ds or, you know, depth guys or young guys, but they're going to be looking at, everybody's looking at D, right shot D, you know, and that'll bring me into. We can go into our trade kind of options here. All right, were you done, Nolan, or do you have another thought?
Yeah, no, I'm done.
Okay.
Right.
So we'll just kind of go through what I've been hearing a little bit. You know, I messaged you guys today about Zadorov, and I was talking to somebody out west, and he hasn't played well. First of all, I think he's got 4 points or something like that, coming off an 18-goal season last year. And but I'm hearing that they're trying to unload him aggressively, and it's not necessarily for his play. I think it's more of his behavior. There was issues with him, I know, in Colorado. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. But I don't think he's fitting into that room, which is a pretty tight room. I think Tocchet's, starting to build a really good culture there, and you've got some good young players that are emerging as leaders. And then when you get somebody that comes in, maybe doesn't, I think they're concerned long term of having that guy around. So, speaking from a Leaf perspective, I know they were in on him. Could they be again? Treliving would know, right? Is there a reason maybe that Treliving basically didn't get him?
Well, I think Vancouver got him because they didn't need any salary.
Just got a message here from a guy in Florida. Rob Jackson, not a chance. We get rid of Zadorov. So tells me that, and I know this because I know him. He's a Vancouver Canucks fan. I'd be surprised if he's there by the deadline there, old buddy. Enjoy your golf game tomorrow, and I want strokes in the spring. Anyway, so I'm hearing that. Treliving might know, maybe they can get him.
Hey, listen, but can we, for your boy there that was just on, can we give a shout out to Rick Tocchet?
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that guy, man. What else do you? He's probably the coach of the year right now, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say he's probably Jack Adams' favorite.
Probably, right? Like maybe Knobloch with the run that Edmonton's been on, but I mean Edmonton's got the talent that they should have been there anyways. So maybe you discount that a little bit. Maybe Torts in Philly, but I think Philly's starting to kind of come back to the pack. Listen, I love everything about Rick Tocchet. Everything about Rick Tocchet.
What about Rick Bowness?
Bowness
who had Winnipeg? Who had Winnipeg where they are?
No, listen, fair point. And Bowness has got everybody, it seems, to buy in. You know what I mean?
He's just one of those pro. He was an assistant coach for about 30 years on top of the head coaching stints that he had in Ottawa, Boston, and Dallas, and now Winnipeg. So he's from here. And he was the guy on a lot of teams. He was an assistant to Gretzky in Phoenix, Alain Vigneault in Vancouver.
Tocchet was assistant to Gretzky in Phoenix too.
Yeah. So
the great one's coaching tree. Who knew?
Exactly. But anyway, Bowness was always that player's coach assistant that he had enough clout with every head coach he ever worked for to say that's enough, right? Like, we're going to move on here, or if the coach is a little bit fired up at a guy or a group or whatever, he was a real good liaison, and that's what a good assistant coach is, really. I mean, you got the guys that teach and the guys that, and then you also got to have those guys that are kind of the glue, right? That the players trust, that they can come to, and the message will get delivered to the head coach or management in the right context, in the right way.
Good team, John.
And Bones has been whole career. I hope he ends up in the Hall of Fame. I really do. I mean, he's been behind the bench for more games than anybody, I think, as an assistant or a head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be surprised to see anybody. Anyway, the other one, Pittsburgh. I'm hearing noise out of Pittsburgh. And the noise is that what are they going to do here? What are they going to do at this deadline? Right? You got Dubas that's, likes to think that, he's a wheeler and a dealer. And, he made moves every deadline he was here. He did something, whether that was right, wrong, or indifferent. He tried to make his hockey club better. Is he in a position, or would it be irresponsible for him to add to this group? I think it would be. I think he has to start looking the other way. I don't know if they need a full-blown rebuild, but they may need, a little bit of a retool, so to speak, and look at Gensel is going to be a hot commodity. He's a free agent in the summer. You could get a ransom for him at the deadline. There's their top three, there's Jackson. Yeah, you know what? don't rule anything out. Don't rule anything out. I'm telling you, with those guys, there's going to be options. And they're not going to go and blindside. They can't. They all have NMCs. But if they go to those three and say, hey, this team wants you, this team wants you, or that team wants you, right?
John, every team in the NHL wants Sidney Crosby.
Well, yeah, or Malkin or Letang. Who's not going to take those guys at a deadline? My point on it is
Tavares for Crosby.
If they're going to turn around now and if they go to those three guys and say, hey, we're rebuilding, man, you know what, we're going to stockpile draft picks. Do you want to be part of it? Give me a list of 3 teams that you'll go to and let us do our magic. That's not off the table in Pittsburgh right now.
So hold on.
I'm telling you.
I just want to be clear in the thought pattern here. You legitimately think that Pittsburgh's ownership brought in Kyle Dubas, allowed him to make the trade to get Erik Karlsson, to bring him in, to now sit there and go, yeah, Sid, thanks for 18 years of hockey. We're going to move you.
I'm not saying that they're going to do it. I'm saying that's absolutely
I don't see
will
it,
be on the table.
Listen,
the players may go to them and say it. These guys have won.
No. Like, listen, that's a different scenario though. I'm just saying, in my mind, Sidney Crosby is like Derek Jeter. Okay, that it's more important to be a Pittsburgh Penguin who's already won Stanley Cups left, right, and center. He's got every accolade in the history of the league that you can accomplish. He's done everything, but he's a Pittsburgh Penguin.
Yeah. I
can't see Sidney Crosby fired up to be in a Vegas Golden Knights jersey.
All right, go to 3 spots only. If there'd be 3 places he'd go.
Toronto,
Colorado,
New York,
Toronto,
Colorado with McKinnon.
McKinnon too. Yeah.
Boston with Marshy, or Montreal, where his dad was drafted and was his childhood team. Those would be the 3 teams that would have a shot. Montreal's not winning for a couple of years. You never know, though. You add him to the mix and make some moves. They could be a much better team real quick.
They're miles away.
Yeah, but
Montreal's no better than Pittsburgh.
There's ways to get you right, but they're younger, a lot younger. I mean, they got a real young core. Anyway, I'm just saying, I'm hearing noise out of Pittsburgh that everything is on the table. And then 2 other topics I had. So I can't say his name because a source told me this last night, but there's several 4 or 5 high-end NC2A free agents, right? Undrafted or gone back in the draft and didn't sign, that are going to be available here as soon as their season ends. There's one, I'm not going to say his name, but he's being linked to Toronto right now, and he is a high-end prospect, right? He would be the type of guy that if you could sign him at the end of and he plays for a school that will be there when it's all said and done, a real good program. And he would be, I'm not going to say the equivalent of bringing Nyes in, but not too far off. So hopefully that kind of stuff pans out. And then I saw an article that I wanted to touch on quickly with the cross-provincial rival Ottawa Senators, and they're announcing these sellouts. Oh, we've had 4 consecutive sellouts, but if you go on StubHub or one of the resale ticket sites, there's $6 a ticket. You can go in and get an upper level seat in see a Sens game for $6. That was what was happening in Carolina and Florida. Would you have expected that in Ottawa? A. And B, would Andlauer look at that and maybe try to move that team to Quebec City? Right?
I think that's results based. I think they're just kind of going on strike, the fans, saying they want change, new coach.
Well, they got the new coach. They got a new owner.
I don't think that coach is going to stay there very long.
So
not really working out.
Listen, Demers is 73,000 years old. He's there as a figurehead placeholder in the meantime, right?
Who?
Isn't Demers there now?
Jacques Martin.
Sorry, I was calling him Jacques Demers. Jacques Martin, you know who I meant. He's still 73,000 years old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's there as a placeholder, nothing more. They're trying to figure their stuff out. The reality of the Ottawa situation is nothing new.
It's the rank where it is.
Nothing new, nothing to see here, as far as I'm concerned. They've been trying to get the LeBreton Flats done for 43 million years. And for whatever reason, whether it was with the BioVale guy whose name escapes me, he wasn't able to get it done. Listen, that rink is in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if you guys have ever been to that rink in Ottawa, but it is literally there's one 2-lane highway in and one 2-lane highway out, and there's 20,000 people trying to get in, and it's a nightmare. It's a disaster.
It's in Canada. It's
off the beaten track. You know, it was the Corel Center. Now it's Canadian Tire, whatever. Ottawa's got problems with the arena, but those problems have been there since the inception of that place. The biggest problem that Ottawa has is the same problem the Buffalo Sabres have. It's no different. Win hockey games, people will come to your arena. That's the biggest impediment they have. Now, did Ottawa make the right moves? They signed all their young guys to big contracts because they're trying to get ahead of the salary cap and buy low, and hopefully those contracts pay out. Right now, it's not looking great. But be very clear, if Ottawa starts to win hockey games, that building will be full. It was funny. When we looked at that today, Kara wants to go to a game in Buffalo, a game in Ottawa. And I looked on, you can go to a regular, like a Thursday night or a Friday night game in Ottawa. You can get decent tickets for $25.
Unless the Leafs are there, and then they're 100.
Yeah. Unless the Leafs are playing there next Saturday, the Saturday afterwards, play the Islanders. I looked on, it was like $196 to sit way up top.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, but don't get me wrong. That's like that in Buffalo or Florida or Tampa, wherever the Leafs go, you're going to pay a premium. So that is what it is. Listen, I'm the very first guy that would love to see a team in Quebec City. The reason we do not have a team in Quebec City, and the reason there will not be a team in Quebec City, is Quebec City does not have the business to buy the luxury boxes to sell the major tickets.
I had Jill Berdion on my other show, and he
business, right, Johnny? It's business.
He's a Quebec City guy, right? Marcel's brother, and he said, "I'd love it, but it's not going to happen."
It can't. There's not enough industry there to support.
You don't have the corporate dollar for sure. Yeah,
right. Like, because otherwise, like, let's be very clear. Winnipeg is on a hell of a run right now, but a year and a half ago, Winnipeg was selling 11,000 tickets to a game.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, I think as Canadians, we need to realize that states like Utah, who look like they're going to get a franchise. Shout outs to Johnny Mack for breaking that news the other week. Was it 2 weeks ago, Johnny?
And they called it the next day.
Next day, boom! Utah comes out. The Jazz ownership. Utah, whether it's going to be Oklahoma City or Kansas, there's multiple other markets in the U.S.
Houston, Portland, I think.
Portland, Winterhawks. But that's like, and I think Canadian hockey fans, and if you're watching us right now and maybe you don't know, the Portland Winterhawks sell out 17,000 fans a night, right? Like Portland is a major hockey market. There are a lot, and they've got legitimate major businesses that are buying in for sponsorship. They're major television markets. And I don't know how to break it to Canadian fans who just, seem to think that we're just going to get next, and we're going to get next. Guys, it's not happening.
Yeah, I think Toronto gets a team before anybody else in Canada, or Hamilton, or GTA. That would be the best option.
And that's not going to happen because the Leafs will never let it happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we get going, and I know we were talking about some trade bait, and just I know I've said this before, but I'd like to say it again. The one guy that I think I would love to see back with us is Ilya Lyubushkin. I think that is a guy that would fit perfectly on our He'd be a fourth defenseman. I'd love to see him play with McCabe. I think the two of them, one guy stay at home in front of the net, kill people, give McCabe the ability to skate with the puck up the ice. I would love to see that. That would make me all kinds of happy.
He's been rumored for sure. They're kicking tires on him. Absolutely.
Listen, if we can get Lyubushkin, and I don't think it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to get Lyubushkin out of there. I would love to see it.
It'll be market driven.
Johnny, I loved him while he was here, and you know what? The coach loved him while he was here. The teammates loved him while he was here, and we ended up signing. I forget who we gave.
He's got priced down, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, we signed like two garbage fourth line players for what it would have cost to re-sign him, and it was like both of them are gone. It was like Nick Patan and somebody else, right? Like, but anyhow, that's if
Nick
I had
Ritchie,
Nick. Oh, Jesus, Nick Ritchie. I'm gonna break out your wet Nick Ritchie talk.
We've gone late.
Yeah, I think that sums it up, guys.
What about predictions for we got the All-Star game? Anybody want to throw a name out there? So they've got a competition, and then it kind of goes down to a guy can win $1 million.
Yeah, which is huge for multi-million-dollar athletes, right?
Yeah. Any predictions on who's going to win that?
Let me just pull it up again.
So I'll go with Matthews because he's the home guy, but I can honestly say I could care less about what's going on with this. I watched I tried to watch the All-Star game last year in Florida, and they were shooting down, or in Vegas. One year they were shooting down surfboards in Florida, and then they were in Vegas, and I don't listen. Certain sport, NBA does well with All-Star Weekend with slam dunk competitions and 3-point competitions. This is not the NHL. This is.
I think this year's gonna be pretty good, though. It seems like it's a lot more.
It's dry. You're not hitting surfboards on the beach, right?
Yeah.
Who do you have, Nolan? Who do you pick?
I'm gonna go Elias Pettersson.
I'm going with Makar.
Okay.
Love Kel Makar.
Yeah. And then we got one game before our next show. It's the Islanders and Patrick Waugh in Toronto, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
What do you got for a score, Nolan?
I'll go. John, you go first.
4-2 Toronto. 4-2.
I was gonna say 4-2, but I don't want to say the same thing. That was the last game.
I'll take the Leafs 3-1. And I'd also like to say that I was on the Patrick Waugh to replace Sheldon Keefe bandwagon for I don't know how long, and I think the Islanders made a great decision. Lou Lamoriello.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go 3-2 Leafs overtime win.
Perfect. Ooh. Well, thanks to our sponsors, Bjorn Hockey and Don Cherry Sports Grills. Got a little. We got a little bit of participation from our viewers this week. That was great.
Is that a Bjorn hockey stick?
Oh yeah, new TJ every night.
Yeah, can you snipe
Johnny? I'm waiting for my shipment, Johnny.
You scored a goal yet?
Yeah, I scored 2 a couple nights ago, and then last night got shut out. But
you know that if you got 2 goals in one game,
one shift.
Your dad.
It's got to be the stick, Johnny. It's got to be the stick.
I played with your dad for years, Nolan, and I don't think he ever scored more than like 1 goal in a season. He got a couple one year.
Yeah.
He was in the box a lot, your dad.
Yeah.
He used to get in the penalty ass. I'd always have to go talk to him in the penalty. All right. Hey, have a good week.
All right, boys. Have a good one.
Yeah. See ya.